Hi, I'm Chef Frank.
And I'm Chef Penny.
And today on Protocooks, Penny's going to teach me how to make pizza dough. Welcome back to another episode of Chef Frank Learns. And today we're going to make pizza dough with my friend Chef Penny over here. One thing you might not know about me is bread doughs are my kryptonite. I do not do good with bread or yeast doughs, so I brought in the professional to show me how it's done. You may know Chef Penny from Epicurious. She teaches with me at the school, and she has her own business. Tell us about your business, Chef Penny.
My business is Sugar Couture. I make custom cakes and sugar art for all kinds of events. Sugar Couture is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but we cater to anywhere that we can reasonably drive.
And I've had the privilege of going to her studio, and it's totally awesome. And for me, it's kind of like a little bit of a dream kitchen because she has space in her studio and she lives really close, so it's kind of cool. I love it.
Yeah, the commute's really nice.
Yeah, the commute's awesome. So let's talk about what we have as far as ingredients here, and then we'll get into like making this pizza dough.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we got?
We have all-purpose flour, water, yeast, we have olive oil, salt, some more yeast, some more water, and this is 00 flour.
And 00 flour is?
00 flour is an Italian flour. In Italy, they rate the flours differently than we do. We rate them by protein content. They rate them by grind. So 00 is the finest grind that they can get.
Okay.
It's a misnomer. Some people tend to think it's lower in gluten, but it's actually not. It's closer between an all-purpose flour and a bread flour. It's up in that range, but it's much more finely ground, so it absorbs moisture nicely.
And from the culinary side, I use 00 for pasta. I think 00 makes a really nice, chewy, elastic pasta that has like nice bite to it. So yeah. So we have yeast, we have flour and water twice.
Yep.
Why?
So what we're going to do is we're going to make a pre-ferment to begin the dough process. You might have heard the words biga, starter, but starter's not exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Poolish, depends on the country it's coming from. It kind of rates by the amount of liquids in it. But basically, we're going to take some of the flour from our recipe, a little bit of the yeast, and some of the water, and we're going to mix it together. We're going to let that sit for anywhere, 4 hours at a minimum, but up to 24 hours.
Okay.
And that's going to give us a lot of flavor so that we're going to be able to move forward with our dough faster.
Okay.
We're going to get a really, really good flavor out of it.
Okay, great. And then we're going to mix that into the dough?
Yep, so then that pre-ferments. When it's done, will become an ingredient in the remainder of our dough, and we'll mix together with the rest of our water, flour, our olive oil, our salt, and the remaining yeast.
So this is definitely something I have never done before, or I don't do it as a practice, and this you think is a good practice?
Well, there's two kinds of doughs.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a straight dough where, I'm sure if you've done any kind of bread at all, you've done that. You mix everything together, you let it proof, hang out, and then you use it right away. You bake it right away. By doing a pre-ferment, we get more flavor out of the dough, and we also get longer staying power. So if you're the kind of guy who likes his pizza the next morning cold from the fridge, right? It's going to taste much better the next day. I am
that type of guy, by the way.
Me
I'm
too.
totally that guy.
Absolutely. And not even from the fridge, right? Straight on the counter. But the process of pre-ferment is great because that's just you can get into your schedule to do. You're just going to get so much flavor out of any dough that you do.
Okay.
And you can just simply take a portion of the flour and the water and a little bit of the yeast to get it going.
So that's a baker's secret.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. We'll make our biga, and then we'll wait for that and mix our dough.
Okay.
Cool?
That's
excellent. Right. Before we really start into the biga, I want to talk about yeast, and I want you to just give me a little lesson on yeast. I have some idea, but sometimes it's a little confusing to me. So what kind of yeast do we use right here?
Okay, so this is instant yeast. This is my preferred yeast, and a lot of people who bake a lot are going to tell you that's what their preferred. There's three main types of yeast. The active dry, which you probably are familiar with already. There's the instant yeast, and then there's cake yeast or fresh yeast. A lot of pizza doughs actually use fresh yeast. Yeah. Pizza parlors use fresh yeast. Yeah. It can give... It's not that one's going to give you totally better flavor, but it gives you a little bit more of that yeasty kind of flavor that you associate. The negative thing about fresh yeast is that it goes bad really quickly. Yeah. So if you're not going to use it in a week, it's essentially garbage. So the active dry and the instant yeast can last up to a year.
Oh, okay.
And usually I keep my yeast in the freezer. Once I open that packet, I transport it into some other kind of container, like a quart container, and then I throw it in the freezer and I keep it there. Okay, so all three of our basic yeasts can be used in any recipe with small tweaks, but you have to treat them differently in the beginning stage.
Yeah.
So with active dry yeast, it has kind of like a coating on it. And so you have to mix that with some of the liquid in your recipe to basically wash off that coating and wake up that yeast.
Okay.
The instant yeast, it's instant, so you don't have that coating you have to get rid of. There's a little bit of it, but it's a different kind of thing. So the instant yeast can be added directly to the flour or to the liquid.
Okay. So then, you don't need to wash off any coating. It basically jumps in and starts doing its work.
Yeah, it wakes up much faster than the active dry. Cool. And then the fresh yeast is completely alive, right? It's not dormant at all. Yeah. And so you basically just break that up and mix it with a liquid and then move on. You can swap equal amounts of active dry or instant yeast, but with fresh yeast you have to double.
So biga, let's talk biga. What do we do?
So the first thing we're going to do is add our liquid to the bowl.
Okay. And what's the temperature on this water?
The temperature is room temperature, like 78 degrees kind of scenario.
Yep.
All right, and then we're going to add our yeast next.
Sprinkle?
Yeah. Dump, sprinkle. You do you.
Okay.
Go ahead and just mix those together. It obviously is very little of it. In our pre-ferment, we just kind of want to get things going. You're good. Okay. So we don't want to put too much yeast. We just kind of want to get the process going. Go ahead and add our flour.
Okay. And mix.
And mix together. So in this case, I used equal parts of flour. So that's the all-purpose flour is 150 grams. The water is 150 grams, just to make it easy to combine. And that's 1 gram of yeast. Stop. You're done.
Done?
Done.
Okay, because I will beat I will beat it up.
No, not the need.
Cover it?
Yeah, cover it.
Okay, I have a cover right here. I'm going to fumble around for it, but I have a cover.
Fumble.
And then where do we put this?
Put this at room temperature in a draft-free area of your kitchen, and you're going to leave it. I mean, the longer that you leave it, the more flavor you're going to get. All right, so the minimum would be 4 to 6 hours, but usually I'm going to just do this the day before and work with it between 18 and 24 hours later. Cool.
So let's put that and then wait and we'll mix our dough. So through the magic of television, you brought us a biga.
Of course I did.
Okay, excellent. And it's sat for how long?
So I made this last night, probably somewhere around 7 p.m.
Okay, good. So the biga has been sitting for quite some time, right?
Look, it's nice and good and pretty and bubbly.
It's foamy. Can I smell?
Yeah, smell.
Yeah, it
smell
smells
fermentation.
kind of boozy. Yeah, it smells like boozy. So what are we going to do the dough itself?
So we're going to mix this in a similar way that we just mixed the biga before. Okay. So we're going to start with our liquid.
Okay, so water.
We always like to start with the liquid in the bottom of the bowl. That stops you from getting any kind of like flour pockets in the bottom that you don't that you miss.
I always get flour pockets. Yep. And then our oil. Okay. And we're using extra virgin oil.
Yep. Use whatever. This is flavorness, right? This is flavor and it's a little bit of texture. It's going to help us give a little bit of a crispiness. Okay. So, and now the yeast. Sprinkle the yeast over. So before that was about 1 gram of yeast. This is about another 3 grams of yeast. So altogether it's about 4.
Mix?
Yeah, just mix it around. Just get that yeast in contact with the water.
So it doesn't really even need to be blended all that great. Just needs to get a little wet.
Yep.
Okay.
Introduced to the party.
Cool.
And now we're going to add the starter.
The starter goes, and all of it's going in?
All of it's going in. Okay. Just careful to watch the bottom.
Oh, don't get all the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, get it all, but you know.
I'll just do that.
There you go. See the stringiness?
Yeah.
That was the gluten
that
it developed, and I didn't need it. We didn't need it, right? Yeah. We just sort of mixed it together, but that gluten was already starting to develop.
Cool.
And then now the rest of the flour.
Oh. Of course, I just splashed in.
Hey, it's not a party until it gets a mess.
Okay.
And our salt. And our salt is going to go on top of our flour. It's going to stay away from the yeast because it can negatively impact the yeast. It can slow it down and kill it in the wrong percentages.
Everything's in the bowl.
Everything's in the bowl.
We're going to mix. We're using a mixer?
Yep, we're using a mixer. It's going to do all the work for us.
I love that. Okay, click it on.
It's the dough hook we're using for the attachment.
So dough hook. And then we just turn, I got to
turn the bowl up. Okay. Beautiful.
And turn her on.
Yeah.
So before I turn this on, about how long do you think this is going to be?
It's going to take, so the first thing that's going to happen is just going to kind of mix all the ingredients together. That's going to take a minute or two. And then it's going to take between 3 and 7 minutes depending upon how fast we let the mixer go.
Okay.
The mixer's instructions will tell you to keep it at no more than speed 2 because it puts a lot of wear on the motor because it's very tough. But you can speed it up a little bit. Just might have to watch it and hold on to it.
Cool. So it doesn't jump off the counter.
Exactly.
So just let it go. I like this, no work. So at this point we are at kind of that scraggly little mess.
Scraggly dough, yep.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite words.
So everything's come together and now we're just gonna let it go. So you can actually, I can hear the mixer
it just like went down a little.
Yeah.
So what you're gonna start to notice is that the dough is gonna start to like connect up the hook and start to spin around, then it's gonna slap at the sides of the bowl, fall down, and do that again. So that's like your first visual sign that you're getting close.
Cool.
And then what you're gonna look for is the dough to be smooth. When it looks like it's sort of smooth, then you're gonna start doing your Windowpane test.
Okay. We'll do that when it's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might want to turn your mixer up. Well, I didn't say like to 1,000.
Yeah, I'm going in. I turned it up to 11. Okay, so it's been rolling for a little while now.
Yeah, it's looking good. So,
oops.
Woo,
Tough guy.
impressive. All right, so what we want to do is the Windowpane test. So you want to take a small piece of that dough.
Okay.
And you want to try to stretch it out as thinly as you can so that you can see through it. And as thin as you can get, if it can do that without breaking, then we know we're good. And that looks pretty good to me.
Yep.
Yeah, you literally can see. It's starting to break now, but that's all right. You've been messing with it.
Okay, I've been messing with it.
So yeah, so this is a pretty, 60% hydration. It's a little bit of a wet dough, right?
Okay.
So it's a little hard to work with right now. It's another good reason to use a mixer for a dough like this.
Cool.
All right, and now we're going to set the dough aside so it can ferment.
Okay.
And that's going to take about an hour or so.
Okay. Do we leave it here?
You can if you have like Pane or, well, I don't, any kind of a spray release. Yeah. You could spray the bowl, spray the top of the dough, cover it with plastic wrap. But we have this baby, and we're going to use some olive oil.
Some good olive oil. Mm-hmm. It's not going to hurt, right?
No, not at all. And you want to spread that all the way around the bowl. And this is to stop it from sticking to the bowl so we don't lose our structure later. And it's also to stop any kind of a skin from developing on the dough.
Okay. So I'll take this out, and it's going right into that bowl,
right? Into the bowl. Beautiful.
Then,
toss it around in the oil.
Swish it around.
There you go. Stop. Good. Perfect.
Okay.
We're going to cover this, and we're going to let it rise for an hour.
I got my plastic wrap. Thank you. And where we want to let this rise?
Yeah,
like
so we want to leave this in a neutral room temperature. So somewhere around 70 to 75 degrees is a good spot. If the room is a lot warmer, this is going to go a lot faster. Okay. And if the room's cooler, it could take even longer. So what you're really looking for is about double in size.
Pizza dough is risen.
Pizza dough is risen.
Okay, let's unveil. Let's unwrap. We're just going to tail it to it.
Show it who's boss.
Show it who's boss. Let's get that plastic off. Okay. Smells nice and doughy.
Put a little bench flour on the table.
Flour.
Don't overdo it because, keep it in this area. In this middle area.
Flour it up.
Yep.
Turn it out.
Gently turn our dough out. You can use the tool. Look at all that. Look at all that air, all that gluten. Gluten.
Gluten.
Okay, so we're going to bowl our dough. This is going to make 2 bowls for us. I'm going to cut that in half.
And we can just eyeball it, right?
Yeah, just eyeball it. Okay, and I'm going to take one, and you're going to take one. And we're going to do the 4 corners of the earth. Front side, pull it in, and press down.
Okay.
Same thing on the right side, left side, and top to bottom. Okay, you really want to press it in. You're going to flip it over. Okay, and then we're going to start working it. Okay, there's a couple different ways to do it. Like you're doing a good way there. Okay, what we're trying to do is gather up that bottom. We want to maintain the air we have, but we want to gather up the bottom so we don't have any seams.
Yeah.
So when we go and form this dough later, it's nice and uniform. We're good to go. Okay.
Okay.
And then we have a sheet tray with some oil on it. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. And these are going to grow quite a decent amount, and they need a little oil on top.
I got a little.
No, I got
we
it
can
from
just
here.
brush,
Yeah.
right?
just to keep them from developing a crust. Because if you develop a crust, you're not going to get beautiful shaped dough later.
And then we're going to wrap it, right?
We're going to wrap it. You want to leave the wrapping a little tiny bit loose because they're going to get larger and you want to give them a little room. And then we're going to proof these overnight. Excellent. So they're actually going to go in the fridge and they're going to spend at least 12 hours overnight, up to 24, maybe even pushing into 36.
Okay.
And they're going to do all of their magic in the cold temperature where they're going to develop a ton of flavor.
Cool. So we'll come back when they're ready.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The dough is now straight out of the fridge and it's cold, and I like to work with the dough when it's nice and cold.
Look at it, I got some beautiful bubbles on mine.
Beautiful bubbles.
I'm going to pop it, right?
No!
Okay.
That's one of my big problems is there's a term called punching down, right?
Yeah.
So in a lot of doughs, you're doing 2 ferments at room temperature before you form the dough, right?
Yeah.
We did 1 ferment at room temp, and the other one's going to be done in the fridge.
Okay.
And then in between those, there's a term of punching down, and people think you're supposed to aggressively punch it down. But I just work so hard to get all that beautiful air in there. I don't want to get rid of it all.
And you want to push it all out.
Yeah,
so show me how you roll out your dough.
All right, so we have a little bit of flour on the counter. I'm going to put a pretty decent amount of flour on top. I don't want it to stick to my hands. And I'm going to start by pushing out and start to mentally form my crust. And I'm going to leave that middle section a little bit thicker because when I start to spread it out, the first thing that wants to spread out is that middle section, and then you overspread or you tear, okay? Yeah. And so then I kind of like to pick it up.
Okay.
And I like to do a little bit of this. And once it's big enough to fit under my hands, I use my knuckles, my gentle knuckles, and I'm not going to poke my finger through the dough. I'm going to work really hard not to tear the dough, and I'm going to start to evenly stretch it. And maybe I'll want to do a little of this to help gravity help me. Yeah. Or I can do a little bit of this action. But this is not made with high gluten flour, so it's pretty tender. So you do want to be careful, okay? I'll also sometimes put it on the counter, and then as long as there's enough flour under, I can do a little of this extra spreading. Personally, I like pretty thin pizza.
I do too.
Right? So that's kind of where I'm going for. This is a 10-ounce bowl that we're working with. And this is enough for like 1.5 hungry people.
So the other thing that I have learned over the years or has been taught to me, because I did work in a place that made pizza before, was you want to work with cold dough.
Cold dough.
It's better to work with cold dough. And I was told that it was better because it's easier to work with and you get better bubbles.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Once the dough becomes room temperature, it becomes pretty tender and pretty soft.
And floppy, right?
Yeah, it's much harder to manipulate.
Okay.
Right? And so there's our dough, and we're ready for our toppings.
And of course, get it all over
Of course
yourself,
you're going to.
Right?
Of course,
so,
absolutely.
we both have a peel.
We have a peel.
Okay.
We also want to talk, so the peel is going to use to transfer our dough to the oven.
Okay.
All right, we have a steel in the oven, a pizza steel, and we also have a pizza stone. Preheat the oven with the stone or the steel in it for about an hour because you really need that heat to completely penetrate through that thing, right?
Into the stone.
Yeah. These are also pizza screens. So if you don't have a stone and you don't have a steel and you don't have a peel and you don't want to invest in it, for like $8, you can buy one of these and you can take your formed pizza dough and place it on top of this. You'd bake it in the oven this way, and it's great because it lets a lot of airflow through the bottom, so you still can get a crispy crust. Okay, you can get delicious pizza.
These are great. There's restaurant supply stores all over the country. You can find these at restaurant supply stores.
Just when you put that dough on it, you never want to press ever. Just gently lie it down. Okay.
So you put some cornmeal down?
Oh yeah. So be generous. Okay. If you don't have enough cornmeal on your pizza, on your peel, you'll never get your pizza off, and you will have a calzone and not a pizza.
I always make sure at this point to give it a little shaky shake. And you're going to make yours, and I'm going to make mine. Yeah, you go first.
All right. So sauce. It's a very thin crust pizza, and people think, oh, I like so much sauce. No, you don't. No, you don't. It's proportion, right? So be careful. You put too much sauce on there, the pizza can't handle it.
It weighs it down.
It weighs it down.
And the sauce that I made, and we'll put a recipe in the description, is uncooked. I don't cook my tomatoes. I like the acidity of uncooked tomatoes. It has garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper, and tomatoes. And I just zap them up because my family likes things not chunky and smooth, so I just do it smooth. Okay.
And you want to be careful that you don't get any sauce on the peel because that could restrict its movement and
Which I just did right now.
give you a nice mess in the oven.
I always put a little pinch of flour on it, like stay dry.
That works. That's
stay
a good
dry.
answer. That's a good beat.
Okay. And then I personally like to do my grated cheese first.
Yep.
And I have Pecorino Romano here because I like Pecorino Romano. As a famous YouTuber says, not YouTuber, she's on TikTok because it's her business. Okay. And then you could, I like to put my cheese on next. What do you think?
Cheese next too.
Yeah, okay.
I understand the theory of putting toppings on and cheese on top, but it's not for me.
Not for me.
When I was growing up, my favorite pizza actually was Parmesan cheese and mushrooms and no actual other cheese.
That's good. That's good. And I don't overload with cheese.
No.
I'm using a low moisture mozzarella for this, part skim, because you can use fresh mozzarella for this, but it's going to make your pie wet, right?
You'd use less of it and space it farther apart.
And I'm going to do pepperoni. Because I like some pepperoni.
And with any of this stuff, you want to think about moderation, right? You want to think about balance in the bite, and that every bite is sort of. I like it when every bite is sort of similar.
I agree. It's like the crust to pie ratio, the crust to filling ratio type thing. Okay, so I'm ready to go in the oven. I think. What about you? I'm giving mine a shake just to make sure it's not stuck to my peel, and we're gonna go in the oven, right?
Yeah, let's go in the oven.
Cool. Pizzas are out of the oven.
They are.
They look good.
Glorious.
Let's cut into them right now. No, we gotta wait, right?
Yeah, you want to give it a couple of minutes. You want to let the cheese congeal a little bit. Otherwise, if you cut it, you're just going to have a pool of cheese. Yeah.
So let's talk about the oven temperature and how long we cook them, though, because we didn't talk about that earlier. So we did say we had the oven on for at least an hour.
Preheating our stones.
What temperature did we say?
Highest your oven goes.
So we had 500. We preheated our stones and our steel. And then we put them in the oven, and how long did we leave them in there?
Well, it's going to depend on your oven, right? So what we actually did, because Chef Frank has a convection oven, so we put it in for the first couple of minutes and just sort of let the dough start to cook, and then we flopped that fan on. And by doing that, that helped us get some more browning out of our home oven that we would have gotten more easily out of a pizza oven. Basically, oven as hot as you can go. If you get it hot enough, a pizza should cook in between 5 and 10 minutes. And
because
the shorter the cook,
crust, right? Yeah, okay. And this dough looks great because this is like pizzeria because you see the bubbles.
Yeah, look at that.
The crust has bubbles in it and it's not flat.
This little craggly kind of dough area.
And then Chef Penny was pointing out before we turned the camera on, the pepperoni got a little sear or a little
curl, a little cup, so all the oil collects.
So while it cools, one thing I like to do is a little fresh basil. You want some?
Sure.
I think fresh basil is one of those things that just makes the pizza that much better. And I don't put basil on earlier because it turns black.
Yeah,
right?
and you lose all those tender aromas. Yeah. And then if it's Italian saw you do it, they would never let you go back to Italy.
No, you would get kicked out.
Yeah.
Right? And then you think we're ready to cut?
The smell of that basil is incredible. Yeah, you could definitely.
I got a pizza wheel. If you don't have a pizza wheel, just use a knife.
Use a knife.
And let's get close. Penny has the mic on. Get close. Ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, look at this. Okay, let's just look and appreciate the bubbles. Look at all the bubbles.
Yeah, that's nicely
That
cooked.
is a good thing, okay?
That's gluten, by the way.
Yeah, that's the strands of gluten. Oh, that's awesome. So let's do, because we're greedy, we're just going to do 6 slices.
Or just one if you're...
Look at that crispiness. That's great. Okay, and then we're going to get to taste.
Now, I'm not going to be a jerk, but like mine was on the steel and his was on the stone. And if you want to compare crunchiness...
Yeah, hers has a little more crunch, definitely. Yeah. And pizza steels are a little more expensive than stones.
They're not cheap.
Nowadays, I think that if you want to do a quality pizza, unless you have a pizza oven in your backyard, which one day, if the wife lets me, I'm going to build, the steel is probably a better way to go. So
the great thing about both of those, though, if you bake any bread at home, like you bake all the bread you make directly on the steel or on the on the stone.
Oh, are we going to taste?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look at that. Look at that piece of pizza. So we're doing it New York style, folding it.
Is there another way?
No. I know that's really good. I know that Blasio uses a fork and a knife, so.
In Italy, you use a fork and a knife because that's the way you do it.
And the Neapolitan style pizza is definitely a little more wet and thinner. But look at those bubbles. Look at that. Oh my God, so good. That is delicious. Good job up top. So look, that's our pizza. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank Chef Pane for being here and teaching me how to do a really good pizza dough. I think we're going to use all these methods to make a better pizza dough. Remind us again your handle and where we can find you.
Yes, sure. So Sugar Couture is sugarcouture.com or sugar-couture.com on the website. On Instagram, it's sugar_couture. And there's also penny.stankiewicz. I know, Stankiewicz. He'll probably put it in the comments so you don't have to worry about the spelling.
Yeah.
It's a separate one. That's anything that's me and food and not cake.
Yeah. I'm just really happy. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, are you kidding me? This is a blast. Like, I've been looking forward to doing this forever.
Yeah, it's fun. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, hit the little bell. We try and do a video a week and get the bell to remind you. We have merch, Need Salt t-shirts down in the description. We also have a Patreon account if you guys want to support us. Thank you to all of our patrons. We really appreciate the help. It lets us do the videos that we love to do. And that's it. That's pizza. Thanks for watching. I'm Chef Frank for Protocooks. Have a good one.